Umibot na yan sa akin, ha? Pinabot yan. Hindi ko rin nakita. Wala, di kapot.
Ito. Ay, hindi ako. Wala.
Reset ko na ako eh.
Tingnan mo. Tingnan mo eh. Ano? Ano, George?
Nag-reset ako.
Bakit?
Wala na akong mode. 980 na sa akin.
Level mo?
Oo. Kaya ako mag-ano. Diba?
Ikaw naman mag-quest o mag-ano ka.
Ay, may boss dito oh.
Huwag na yan.
Ay, dalawa yung boss oh.
Ano ba eh? Magraran ka kaagad.
Oo.
Bakit?
Ha? Pwede mo naman makalabot dito eh. Ay, sa extra round, biwa mo na tayo bago ako mag-rank.
Bantay ka!
May rank pala to.
Oo, mga D1 mo kami. Or ako lang. Dalawang account ko, D1.
This is, I have grown from that puny little boy. I've grown stronger.
Wig mo.
Yeah. Ay, hindi pa pala ako nagano kaya magano na ako.
Hindi mo alam yung combo sa Archer Block mo yun.
Ha?
Hindi mo alam yung ano ko, combo dito sa isang account.
Nakakumpahin dyan sa combo mo.
May absorption ako eh.
Absorption mo lang mukha mo.
Oo, pag maubusan ako ng chakra, pupunta ako sa'yo, i-absorb ko yung ano, mga chakra.
Sure ba?
Oo. Para iwas time sa akin.
Ako na bahala dito.
Pagkatapos, ikukumo ka na hanggang mo.
Ay, Colby, isa ba kayo?
Okay na.
Malapit na rin ako, ano, George? 2,000.
Wait lang sis. Huwag mo na magano.
Archer Blocks lang.
Tapos na. Huh? Still alive? Strong. Pagbubo.
The best night of all time. I mean, I couldn't imagine. I never got to meet him. I'd have loved to. Everyone in this room, everyone around the world loves him. Can you describe your friendship? I don't think I'd ever met anybody like Freddie, who was larger than life, so funny, so gifted, so talented in what he wanted to do. I mean, his videos, he used ballet dancing, and he had such an incredible mind, and was one of the funniest people I'd ever met, and was so wonderful to spend time with. Hanging out with him was a pleasure. There was no attitude, it was just a laugh. When we did Live Aid, I had this big area built backstage which everybody could come and have a drink with all the artists on the show. And I went on before Queen, and Queen came, and I wore this ridiculous kind of hat, and Freddie came back, and they completely trounced it. I went, well, I said, no one need go on now, Freddie. You just completely and utterly swept the board, and you were absolutely brilliant. He said, yes, darling, we were. And what were you wearing? You looked like the Queen Mother. And I did. you told me once a very moving story about when he was ill and when he died. And, I have a house
Pwede ka na matalo, George.
Talo.
in London, which wasn't too far from the house where he spent the last few weeks of his life or years of his life. And I didn't go and see him often because I found it really, really painful because AIDS was terrifying. and was physically terrifying to look at. But Freddie loved collecting Japanese art and collecting at auction. So while he was dying, he was still buying things at auction. He would be surrounded on the bed, and there'd be medicine all around him, medicine cabinets, pills, but auction catalogs. And it was astonishing. I thought, this is amazing. This man has such a love of life that he's not thinking about dying whatsoever. He's still thinking about living. And he showed no fear to me about dying, and no fear or sadness. He went round there, and you held an audience with Freddie. And I collect a painter called Henry Scott Hugh. A Christmas morning, Tony King again, who's a link in my life, came and gave me this pillowcase. And his my drag name is Sharon, as you read in the book. And he was Rod Stewart's Phyllis, and we've all got drag names. David Doyle never had one, he was always Mrs. Bowie, and Mick was always Mrs. Jagger. But Freddie was Melina, as in Melina Mercury, the Greek actress. And in this beautiful pillowcase was this watercolor of Henry Scott Hugh. And in the note that went with it, it said, "Dear Sharon, I saw this at auction and thought you'd love it. I love you, Melina." And you can imagine how much I cried. It was really moving. And he was dying, and he still thought of his friends, and he bought me this. And I still have it on its easel, and I still have the pillowcase next to my bed. That's the kind of person he was. He was so full of love and life. I don't think I've ever met anyone quite like that. And it was the story of someone else who contracted AIDS, Ryan White, that actually made you want to get sober. I was in a doctor's office in New York, and I picked up a copy of Newsweek, and I read about this horrific story when AIDS was just beginning, and people were very ignorant and thought you could catch it off a toilet seat or by touching something. And Ryan White's family lived in Indiana, and he contacted HIV and AIDS through a blood transfusion. And people found out about it and started shooting bullets through his windows and putting firebombs through his letterbox. And I was outraged, and I got my publicist or someone to get hold of the family, and I helped them move to another town in Indiana, and became friends with the Brian White family. He was inspirational, this young kid who had a death sentence around him. I never heard complain. I never heard bitch about having HIV and AIDS. His family were extraordinary. And, we went to Disneyland together. We did obvious things. He came to my shows. We became friends, and I continued to support the family. And in the last week of his life, I flew to Indianapolis along with a lot of other people who were friends of the family who went there to support.
Hello everyone, welcome.
I'm blind.
For the family. And what I did in the Indianapolis hospital, I was like Jeannie's secretary. I answered the phone. I did, jobs for her to take up my night off her because she was spending the last few days with her dying son. And I would go back home to my hotel, or go back to the hotel in Indianapolis. This family are the most wonderful family I've ever seen. They were so Christian. They forgave everybody who'd been horrible to them. I used to complain about the wallpaper in the hotel, didn't like the fabric on the chairs, and I thought I went home and I used to cry and I think, what have you become? What have you become? Look at the way they live their life, look at the way you live your life. I was so ashamed. And if you look at me in the funeral, I had white hair at the time of sleeping with the past. I looked like a real old man, and I was doing a lot of drugs. 6 months later, I was sober and clean. He was a huge catalyst for teaching me how far I'd lost my way, how far my standards had dropped. That whole family, they were the template for me to getting sober. And so 6 months later, I got sober. And I decided when I got sober that I would do something for AIDS and HIV. And I set up the Elton John AIDS Foundation. My kitchen table in Atlanta. And never in a million years could I have imagined how far we would come. But I was determined that I wanted to put back something. I wasn't there on the ACT UP march. I wasn't there with Larry Kramer, and I should have been, and I felt really guilty about it. I thought, right, I've been given another chance to live my life. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to raise a lot of money and not waste it, and give it to people who need to have the support that they never had from me, and that's what I did.
Okay, goodbye everyone. That's it. It was a testing only.
Hindi naman. Buburasingan mo.
Where are you aiming, bro?
Where are you running? Wala. Running! Bakit mo?
Wala na.
To the death ka, no?
To the death. Sexy na, huh?
True winner.